John Birch Society Report. George Washington stated, "Truth will ultimately prevail where pain is taken to bring it to light." Truth is the major weapon of the John Birch Society Report. We will return after these words from our sponsor. The John Birch Society Report presents this weekly broadcast to bring you commentary and analysis of today's events. Our commentator today is Mr. Thomas J. Anderson, well-known columnist and humorist of Nashville, Tennessee, and president and editor-in-chief of Southern Farm Publications.
This is Tom Anderson for the John Birch Report. Today, the straight talk message is especially for young people, but I hope you older people will listen too. In 1933, in the depths of the Great Depression, a boy named Johnny was born of Lithuanian parents in Pittsburgh. When Johnny was 5 years old, his father died, leaving his widow with 3 other children, all under 11. The mother rejected offers to put the children out for adoption and took a job cleaning offices in downtown Pittsburgh on weekdays and working in a bakery on Saturdays to keep the family together. Johnny became a good football player, but not big enough at 145 pounds to get a big-time football scholarship. So he went to a small college and then played sandlot pro ball for $6 a game. Finally, he was drafted by a big pro team. In his first game, his first pass was intercepted by the opponent for a touchdown. Johnny inherited a 20-14 lead coming into the game and fumbled it away into a 58-27 defeat. But he kept on. His name is Johnny Unitas, and he's one of the most successful quarterbacks in pro football history. His mother kept on too. She went to night school and became chief bookkeeper for the city treasurer of Pittsburgh. Neither of them really had a chance in life, as the saying goes. The Beats and Zens, peaceniks and hippies bitterly complain about, quote, the world we never made, close quote. Poor dears. Too bad they don't have the chance in life Abraham Lincoln, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, George Washington Carver, or Johnny Unitas had. Why does anybody owe you young people an education, security, or anything else except a chance in life? Life is not a cafeteria. Too many American youngsters get everything and give nothing. American teenagers have more cars, more motorcycles, TV sets, stereos, amplified guitars, discontentment, and crime than do all other teenagers in the world combined. Count your blessings, you young people, and older folks too. Ingratitude is one of the basest of sins. Believe in faith, not fate. Faith separates the enthusiast from the cynic. Enthusiasm is one of the greatest passports to success. Don't keep your cool when you should be warm. As any failure can tell you, success is just a matter of luck. Calvin Coolidge said, "Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts." Close quote. It's not what you know, but who you know, say the cynics. Right. And the most important person any of us could possibly know is Jesus Christ. John Morley said, "The great business of life is to be, to do without, and to depart." And let us add, to live again. Probably the most difficult task of business today is to find not college degrees, but people who want to give an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. To find people who ask, "What can I do for you?" instead of, "What can you do for me?" To find people who ask, "What is the opportunity?" instead of, "What's the security?" People, like ships, arrive at the ports to which they chart their courses. But only about 1 person in 20 bothers to chart a course. That's like playing a football game without any goal lines. If money and position and government are our only hope for independence, then we will never have it. The only real security is inside you. God could have made man secure. Instead, he made man free. But freedom is not free. It's not even cheap. Throughout history, the greatest enemy of man has been government. Men fought, bled, and died for centuries for freedom. God-given individual freedom. And you young people may yet have to do the same. The time to be a pacifist is behind the wheel. More Americans are killed on our highways every year than have ever been killed in any war. Hamlet, a crazy mixed-up kid, moaned, "The time is out of joint. Oh, cursed spite, that ever I was born to set it right." The time has never been more out of joint than now. And if you young people don't set it right, who will? Young people are now in the majority in this country. The average voting age is now 29. In 1972, it will be 25, which is the reason Bobby Kennedy bobs his hair. Speaking of Bobby Kennedy, it has been acknowledged that 1/4 of Adolf Hitler's concentration camp guards held doctorate degrees. Some of the most educated people are the most wicked. You have to be educated to even know how to commit some crimes. Anybody in this country who appreciates and wants a good education can get one. If you really want to get a good education, pull a few wires, TV, telephone, and ignition. It's what you learn after you know it all that counts. Go to school not to make a living, but to make a life. School should not be for producing degrees, but for producing character. Many schools can't possibly do that because their principals lack principles. Their teachers, PTAs, curricula, school boards, buildings, and athletic programs are devoid of character. What counts most in life is not what you have in your pocket or your head, but what you have in your heart. Character is all that you are. To fail is not to be lacking in character, but to be lacking in character is to fail. The little voice inside you should be your conscience and not your pocket radio. You are what you eat, think, and do, and don't do. Someday you will sit down, alone, to a banquet of consequences. Your habits become you. Your teacher might consider this ridiculous, if not illegal, but Patrick Henry was so right when he said, "This book, the Bible, is worth all the books which were ever printed." Close quote. Religion is the root of the morality tree. Once a farmer standing on the river bank handed his son a pail of garbage and said, "Son, get on your horse and take this garbage up to the river bend and dump it in and then ride immediately back here." Incredulous but obedient, the son carried out his daddy's mission and returned to his daddy's side. In a few minutes, the old man pointed toward the water. "See that can and those bottles and that rotten apple bobbing? This river is like your mind. It becomes what is dumped into it." Every time we read a pornographic book or see a dirty movie, listen to a filthy story, we are filling our river with garbage. Some of it may sink immediately and seem to be lost, but it will turn up later on. Maybe when you least expect it, when you're studying, working, praying, sleeping. Everything you see, think, and do makes a little dent in your brain. Isn't it better to keep the garbage out in the first place? Has any river ever been improved by garbage? Have you ever thought more of anybody who told you a filthy story? To educate is to make a piece of sculpture out of a hunk of granite. To fill the mind with evil is to break the hunk of granite into useless pieces. There are many things we are better off not knowing. That, too, is academic freedom. The temptation to learn about good and evil was used by the devil in the Garden of Eden. You can be better than your reputation, but you cannot be better than your principles. The same teenage girls who would scream if there were a mouse loose in the stadium think nothing of parking in the back seat with a rat. Follow the line of least resistance and you'll be like a river, fluid, unclean, and crooked. The weakling seeks the front of the bus, the back of the church, and the middle of the road. Be strong, both for and against. Get involved. A small number of people make things happen. A larger group watches things happen, and the mass never understands what happened. Just because the majority decides a thing doesn't necessarily make it either right or true. If recent surveys are true, and if youth continues to think and do as these surveys say, then our free republic is doomed. The open generation, according to these polls, is very discontented with life today in the United States. They don't trust anyone over 30. They say their parents annoy them. They would live away from home if they could, and 45% believe it is all right for a boy and a girl who are in love to live together. Make love, not war, is the slogan. A majority say sex before marriage is okay. Love is more important than virginity. Apes would agree with that, too. They don't want to go into business because the profit motive, they say, is wicked. This has been the greatest nation in history because of three things: the American system of free enterprise, the profit motive, the land and the climate, and the kind of people who settled and made this country. And now the collectivists are deliberately destroying the system and the free republic, which produces over 7% of the world's land and more than half of the world's goods. With 6% of the world's people, we Americans own 71% of its cars, 56% of its telephones, 83% of its TV sets, and 90% of its bathtubs. American business did this, not the government. Business did it in spite of its government, which has been anti-business for 30 years. Foreigners didn't do it, and youth didn't do it. The squares over 30 and their parents did it, and then gave much of it to the world and to you young people, neither of which appreciated it. So if you want to help the world, help yourself and your children. Don't get into social work or into government. Get into business. Now, this is Tom Anderson saying so long for the John Birch Report.
We want to thank all those who've taken time to listen to the John Birch Society Report, which has again focused attention on important subjects directly involving you. Our commentator today has been Thomas J. Anderson. If you would like a copy of today's message, please send 50 cents for one copy or $1 for 3 copies to the John Birch Society Report, San Marino, California. Please enclose a stamped, self-addressed envelope. Ask for transcription.